As you discipline this child, do you have a plan? That is the question I always ask about parents when it comes to disciplining. Do you have a plan? Or do you react at that moment with emotions, with your day, with the mood that you're in the day? Do you have a plan? Because when it comes to these other methods of disciplining, like time out, Ellie, is a very effective way of disciplining a child between 5 years, right, and 3 years. Is very effective, because a child who is 5 years and 3 years does not know how to sit still. So a timeout will really affect them. So as you tell this child, I'm putting you on a timer, and by the way, you're not shouting, you're not screaming, you're firm, you're in control of your emotions, you're in control of your thoughts. And you tell this child, Wairimo, I'm putting you on timeout because you did 1, 2, 3 things, and that is unacceptable to this family. You're not allowed to do that. I told you last week, you did it again. Now you need to pay the consequences for your actions. So your timeout is going to be in your room. You will not have access to this. You will not have access to that. You will sit at this particular point for 1 hour, quietly and stillly. The more you misbehave, the more you run around, the more you come out of where I have told you to sit, the longer the time is going to be. So it's up to you to decide, whether you want to sit there for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. Because the minute you come out, we restart the clock. All right? So what you do as a parent is that you put the clock there. So this child, 1 minute in a situation that you don't want to be in can feel like forever. You are in control of that situation. You're in control of how this child is feeling. You're in control. You've let them know the consequences of the actions that they took. And then you have a conversation afterwards. The conversation reassures the child. It takes care of that fear that you have put in that child. You let the child know, okay, you are on timeout. What did you do? Mommy, it's because you told me to put away my toys and I didn't put away my toys. Next time, what will you do? I will put away my toys. Why? Because I don't want to be in timeout. Now, what is the next thing that you're supposed to do? Apologize. Are you sorry? Yes or no? And this child should have the right to say no, because I was going to put out my toys. Mommy, you grew impatient. Okay? They should be able to, yes, they should be able to say, no, mommy, I am not sorry because I was going to put out my toys, but you put me on timeout before I could do it. I delayed. What I am sorry for is I delayed. I didn't do it immediately as you told me. Now you're developing a healthy relationship with this child. Disciplining is becoming a correction of behavior. They're also making you aware. Now you tell them next time, if I tell you to tidy up after yourself, you have 10 minutes to do it. You have 15 minutes to do it. You have 5 minutes, so that we understand each other. Nisikugware na usinigware. Isn't that amazing? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is GK Kamau, and I am your relationship coach, and I'm so excited to have you today. So share the link, invite everybody, let them know we are here on Saturday to talk about matters family edition. Family, parenting, children, spousal responsibility, co-parenting, blended families, name it. We talk about it right here. So I'm inviting each and every one of you to share on your platforms and to invite your friends to share so that we can all enjoy this conversation. And now, without further ado, allow me to invite my co-host. He seems so well rested and relaxed and all, like his Saturday was just jividali. And now, Ellie, show yourself. Ellie, looking for Ellie. Good evening, Ellie.
Good evening, your
How are you, my brother?
How are you doing? I'm great.
I'm good. I can't complain. You know, Ellie, I have a problem.
Tell me about
Every time I introduce you, mimi nimejichocha huku pere, and then you come in. Hi, Nyokabi, how are you? Good evening. Welcome to Ati Heart. My friend. Beef.
You know, on a Saturday like this, you get to relax. It's family day, so you shelve off all your work responsibilities. You shelve off all your 9 to 5 kind of activities, and all you do is relax. And above that, we get to talk to family issues, and that's why tonight It's not any different in Yokabi,
Yes.
but it's different in a way that we are talking about very engraved issues, very deep. Some of you might not agree with us tonight, but this is something we must talk about. Nyokabi was telling me before we went on air, Ellie, are you sure this is something you want us to talk about? And I said, Nyokabi, we have to take the bull by its horns because there's a lot of problems happening in the family units, and it's never that bad after all. So I want to welcome everybody that is watching tonight. Feel free to converse with us in the comment section. Remember, the hashtag is Art in Heart, hashtag responding to live, because we want to respond to live rather than reacting to live. Nyokabi,
Yes.
the topic
Yes.
is time to say goodbye. And this is something you are asking me, but Ellie, what is time to say goodbye? And I think now you know better. What are we talking about, Nyokabi?
Today we are talking about a particular activity. Let me call it an activity to just clothe it with some dignity that happened last week. And personally, when I saw this clip, Ellie, it just overwhelmed me. I was very concerned about a few things that we are going to be talking about today. And we are talking about what happens if you and your partner cannot get along. You live under the same roof, you have children, you just cannot get along. You just can't get your word in without hollering toxic words, without getting out of control, and your children are witnessing you go off on each other. At what point do we call this a stop? Well, at what point do we stop? At what point do we walk away from that kind of a situation? At what point do we actually control these conversations? What do we do if your partner is toxic, is verbally abusive, is sexually abusive, is emotionally abusive, and they even do it in front of the children? So this is what we a very sensitive topic, and we even have a case study today of one of our very own Kenyans who live in this country, a beautiful couple who, if you look at their home, you can see they have built a home for themselves. If you look at the car that they're driving, you can see that they're financially stable. But if you look at the environment, and if you look at the uniforms that these children are wearing going to school, you can tell that this couple has made an effort to make a life for themselves. But if you listen to the conversation that's happening among them and between them, wow. And it's so sad that it's happening all over this country. Our neighbors do it all the time. We ourselves, we do it all the time. So this is what we are asking ourselves, Ellie. When do we call it quits? When is it that enough is enough? When is it that we can't take these insults anymore? What do we do about it? What do you do? What do you do? How do you handle a partner who is disrespectful to themselves, to you, and to the children? When is the time to say it's time to leave? It's time to pack up and get going. When is the time to say this is it, I am done, instead of killing somebody and leaving their body by the roadside? When is the time to say this is it, Ellie? That's the question we are asking ourselves today.
And of course, we seek to address this question with your contribution. Remember to send in your comments in the comment section and let us converse. Let us have a conversation. This is a family unit. However, tonight we are going to send out a warning that some of the words that you're going to listen in this clip might be very disturbing. So we ask you to bear with us because it is what it is. It's not a big spoon, it is a spade. However, kindly accept that this is a matter we need to discuss.
Wapi? Unaniambia kwani anakuoma kama mimi? Anaenda kuoma kama mimi? Unaniambia wewe? Unatobaga wapi? Sasa unakuoma kama mimi? Unaniambia wewe? Mungu unamtobaga wapi? Ndio kuja kuniambia sijui malaya sijui nini? Unamtobaga makua? Natombaga haya makua. Unakuja kuniambia sijui malaya mbele wako. Unamtobaga makua? Unamtobaga makua? Unaniambia nini?
Endelea kidogo.
Unamtobaga makua ndio kuja kuniambia malaya hapa mbele ya watoto. Unamtobaga makua? Siongee. Unamtobaga makua ndio kuja kumfungulia simu hapa asikize. Si nimekupata kwa gari? Mkiniongelea na nimesikia nikiwa bedroom. Si ukuje na yeye kama ni mwanamke anitoe. Kushinda kusema kipi mali ya mjinga. Wewe kuja na yeye anitoe. Kuja na yeye anitoe.
Kimaanisha hakuna ingine kubwa
Kuja
kuliko
na
hiyo.
ng'ombe anitoe kama ni mwanamke. Kuja na yeye anitoe.
Hakuna ingine.
Kuja mwanamke si
Nyokabe.
I can, Ellie, I can see in the comments people are asking in front of the kids. Yes, Leona, this is happening in front of the kids. This is a clip that was uploaded by the gentleman who is the father, who is recording the clip. And today we want to discuss a few things in that particular clip. We want to talk about the language that is used to address the situation in front of the children by both parties. We want to address the parent who is recording this particular clip because there are a few things that Ellie and I noticed as we watched that clip on Facebook. Some of the way the children are carrying themselves around. We want to address the issue of how this daughter chooses to report the mother to the father about a complaint about genes. So there's a lot we are going to learn from this clip, and we'll ask you to bear with us because of the language and the sensitivity, but it's an issue that has been there on social media. It's an issue that has been there on Facebook, and this is a family edition, and we want to talk about these things. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we notice in that conversation is that the lady is complaining that the husband came home and addressed her and called her a prostitute. We use the English word and called her a prostitute or referred to her as a prostitute. We didn't get to hear the conversation of that side, but we do hear that is what has triggered the anger that she's expressing. But the question we're asking ourselves this evening, Ellie, does the grievancy of the situation give you the right as a parent to speak like that to your partner? It's one thing to speak to your partner like that in the bedroom behind closed doors with your voice under regulated volumes, because you can also close the door, the bedroom door, and still speak at the top of your voice, and the children can hear you from the kitchen or from outside. So, and it's another thing to say such kind of words in front of these children. So I want to discuss what this comes across to the children, because for our interest is the children. The couple is just beyond help. Let's talk about what this parent is exposing this child to. Number one, they're exposing this child to sex. They're exposing this child to sex, because when you start talking about sexual organs in such a disrespectful way, then what you're doing to this child is that you're introducing them to sex, and you're introducing them to sex in a negative way and not in a light way. Number two, the reason why we are saying that this parent is exposing this child to sex or is introducing this child to sex is because she keeps on referring and asking, and so introducing their sexual relationship with their partner to the children and to the person who the partner is having an affair with, or infidelity in the relationship. So as much as parents think that children are naive and children don't understand these things, children do actually understand these things. And you can hear the daughter in the background pleading with the mother, Mam Nyamaza, please Nyamaza, please Nyamaza. And that is one of the things that really broke my heart, because this child is realizing this conversation is getting out of hand. It's quite toxic. It's a conversation that should not be happening, but the parent is ignorant to the child. So when you introduce your child to sexuality like this, you're setting them up for a distorted or a toxic sexual experience. What you're teaching this child is that as a woman, your body is not to be respected. Your private parts are not to be valued. They can easily just be used to be verbal about them, to verbally diarrhea about them. When it comes to the boy child, as a mother, and you're sitting there and you're talking about, I don't know if I can sensitize and say, where do you penetrate? Let me use English so that the conversation becomes easier. Do you penetrate the ears, or do you penetrate the nose, or do you penetrate the mouth? Where do you penetrate? What are you telling this boy child? That it is okay to penetrate these areas? Or how are they supposed to distinguish that you're trying to be sarcastic as a parent and you're trying to hurt the other person as much as you have been hurt, and you don't really mean that a person should be penetrated in these areas? Because what you're doing is that you're providing education and exposure to these children. So the first thing that we want to ask ourselves when we're arguing with our partner, especially our sexual partners, because when you're arguing with a sexual partner, you want to become perverted. And if you become perverted, then it means you're laying sex in a very negative manner. I'm looking for proper ways of explaining this conversation without it being sensitized and closed by Facebook. What we are saying is this, that this person, what you're doing, you're opening a page into the life of this child. And the page that you're opening to them, you're introducing to them as the parents in a very negative way. And there are things that as children we don't want to know. We don't want to know that our parents are intimate sexually. We don't want to know how they go about it and how they do it. But this conversation is opening this whole thing in front of these children, and they're teenagers. They're just developing their sexuality. They're just trying to discover themselves. They're just trying to know what is this matter that they're talking about. Now, the other thing that happens, if this child does not understand what these parents are talking about, when they go to school, they will ask their schoolmates, what does this word mean? What does it represent? Now, again, you have shamed this child because now the peers will be asking them, guy, kwani wazazi wako wanaongeanga tabia mbaya aje huko kwa nyumba? You see, now you have also stigmatized this child. There is a lot of risk out of that conversation. Ellie, I want to ask you a question.
Yes,
What
Nyokabi.
stood out in that context, or in that question that you keep hearing this woman asking her husband, where do you penetrate? Where do you penetrate? What stood out for you, or what struck you as odd and awkward and just overwhelming? And the response that the man gave, there is nothing that is big like yours, you know? I mean, you could hear him responding in that language. What struck you the most?
My point of concern in this whole conversation, and for those who do not in any way understand the language being used, that is Swahili mixed a little bit with the street language that we call Sheng. What bothers me in that conversation, Yokabi, is the audacity that these two parents have to be very verbally vulgar in front of the children, and that the child still stays to listen through the conversation. From a quick conclusion, I would say, as much as we don't want to address it outright, this child could actually be already sexually exploited. And this is a very dangerous red flag, if I would say in Nyokabi.
Yes.
The other part that I find also disturbing is the fact that this lady goes ahead lashing out words without containing herself and trying to repetitively mention those vulgar words in front of the children. I don't know if you call it, somebody asked in the comment section, do you think this is a psychological problem, Yokabi, or is this more than just emotional abuse, or is it the toxicity has actually gone way beyond? Because anybody will argue, yeah, but why are you discussing this? We started with the toxic relationship series last week, and that is toxic parenting. And you can see it spewing out. It didn't take so long. It is already happening there in our homes. So there is need to talk about this, Nyokabi. And as you ask
Yes.
me, I cannot resolve this by myself. Let's see what the comment section is all about and find out what they're saying. Nyokabi, take us there, please.
I will start with our first comment. I'll start from the right bottom, just like you like to start, Ellie.
Yeah.
And we have Lona here who is saying he's having mpango wa kando, which has made her wife, or his wife, lower than him. Or rather, the psychological effects. We know women, when a man is having an affair, Ellie, the woman always looks back at themselves and they begin to wonder, is it because I'm not pretty enough? Is it because I'm not enough for this man? That's why he's having an affair. In most cases, that's what happens to the woman. It's not necessarily true, and it's not the case, but that's what happens to the woman. You look back at yourself and you're thinking, there must be something wrong with me. And that's why she keeps on repeating herself and saying, where do you penetrate her? Do you not penetrate her the same place that you penetrate me? And she goes ahead to say, how many children has she given you? I have given you 4 children. How many children has she given you? So that she can prove to be more of a woman than me, bring her here to try and push me out of my home. We see how that will go about. So these are some of the challenges that Lona is talking about. And Pet is saying, I think the man lost authority in that house, therefore no order. That is the first thing that happened that led to that position. Now, allow me to open this conversation that has come out. When a man is unfaithful to a woman, or when a man has an affair with another woman in the presence of his wife, or even the wife becomes aware, what normally happens is that this woman loses respect for the man, because they feel You're not even, especially if you're a man who underperforms in the bedroom matters, if you underperform financially, if you have an area that you underperform, if the woman catches you having an affair, they lose respect for you. And mark you, gentlemen, this is a subconscious decision. It's not something that a woman sits down and says, now I'm going to lack respect for this man. It is something that happens at the back of their mind, because women don't process things like men. We don't logicalize things. We don't sit down and put them into compartments. Everything to a woman is connected. God to the husband, to the children, to the food that they ate in the morning, to the headache that they're having, to the cup of tea that had too much sugar or too little milk. Everything is connected. It's a connected circuit. So we are not able to separate matters and put them into compartments just like men do. So when a man becomes unfaithful, if there's a place where you're shortcoming or there's a place where you're underperforming, according to her, not according to you, because you could be thinking, oh, I have provided for this woman, or I have given her children. I have had men arguing that because they have given their women children, then their women are sexually satisfied. They are not. Right? I've had men saying that she should be happy because she has everything that she needs in the house. That's not the case. So there's an area or there's something that you're not meeting. So when you involve infidelity, what that triggers in this woman is disrespect. The respect and the value they had given you immediately lowers. It comes from where it was and it comes completely, it drops to 0%. So for women, we don't lose the trust. And that's why you find that women still stay in the relationship, even after infidelity, countless times of catching the man being unfaithful. We have seen very powerful women stand by their husbands, public figures, political giants, ministers of the gospel who have been unfaithful to their wives in the public eye. And you see the woman standing there next to him and saying, you know what, he cheated on me, he didn't cheat on you. So for us, the issue is not the cheating, it's the respect that they lose for you. Where they had put you, they drop you from that position. So when a woman loses respect for you as a man, you lose authority in that home, because a woman can only submit to a man she respects. So if you have an issue and you see this woman is outrightly showing disrespect by how she's choosing to address him, how she's choosing to speak to him, she's not respecting that he's a father to these children. She's not respecting that he's a man. She's not respecting that he's her husband. She's not respecting anything. So the respect for her has just dropped, and she's not even aware. By the way, for your information, unless you make her way, she's not aware that she has lost her respect for him. So she cannot submit and she cannot respect anything she's saying, and she can't even hear anything he's saying. So even when he's trying to say, to become verbal, and the more you become verbal, the more you lose control. The more, as a man, the more you lose control and you get into a confrontation with a woman, the more respect she loses for you, because sasa you mwanamke, you behaving like a woman. There are women who will even tell you, why do you behave like a woman? Why do you get into arguments with me? Why do you get into confrontations with me? Because there's a standard that women have for men, and men have no choice but to respect those standards. I want to move to another comment, Ellie, but I want us to discuss the comments as we go. So Mercy is saying, I have gone through toxic parenting. It's not the best thing to let your kids go through. Lucky enough, I did psychology, which has helped me. By the way, if you have gone through a toxic upbringing, doing psychology really helps you. Understanding your personality really helps. So just thinking, what of children we don't get help? What about those? I think she's just thinking about those children who do not get help and who do not even realize that they grew up in a toxic environment. This is normal. So long as you're in that house, it is normal. You accept, even if madhi anaongeanga, even if daddy anaongeanga. And if you go into your own relationships, then you carry on the toxicity. But if you become self-aware, then you can be able to get help. There's such a risk for these children. And like you said, Ellie, this girl has already probably been exposed to sexuality. I think in the video I highlighted for you a particular place that she's trying to wear socks or shoes, and her legs are wide apart, and she's wearing a dress. And you see, it's so normal in that family that even the father does not move the camera away from that particular scene. So he just keeps on recording the whole point until she puts her legs down. So he's not even aware that it's not okay for the daughter of that age to have her legs up wide open. So these are some of the challenges that this child is facing, because it's normal for them to be perverted within the conversation. So I have Kitty who is saying, secondly, you reach that level, it means that there is no longer respect and maybe love between each other. Just my opinion. Thank you, Katie. We appreciate that. Yes, the issue of love is not really an issue that plays a very key role when it comes to those kind of fights. The issue here is respect and the issue of respect and validity, the need to feel validated, the need to feel there's a word I'm looking for and it's not coming to my mind. There's that need to feel validated, to feel
Yeah.
I belong to this person. You should respect me. You should value who I am. I think that's what is really battling between these two families. Ellie.
Uh, Nyokabe, there are quite
Yes,
a lot of them happening in the comment section. Let's try to sample most of them as much as we can.
yes,
They say, get back on screen, please, Nyokabe, if you may allow me to go through those comments kindly. Yes,
yes,
this one I will try to loosely translate it. That yes, there is disrespect. You do not
yes.
hate them, you only but disrespect them, or rather, you've lost respect for them. The only mistake is she did that in front of the children.
Mm,
Well, is it time to say goodbye? That is the question. We follow through other comments and allow me to bring that again. And Nyokabi, I would like you to discuss this actually. And Jakita
yes,
says, when you reach that level, both parents must be capable to be wise enough to stop that discussion and or request children to leave the place. Well, that means in the first place that actually this heated discussion started in front of the children. Question is,
yes.
should it even come to that level in the first place?
When someone is hurting, Ellie, I want to use misery loves company. I want to use the Englishman word and say misery loves company. When
Indeed.
someone is hurting and you feel you're trying to reach somebody and you're not able to reach them. Like now, for example, let me give you an example. If Ellie, you and I were dating, and at the
Yeah.
beginning of the relationship, you used to call me, you used to send me messages. When I looked for you, I would find you. Sometimes I wouldn't even have to find you. You would just avail yourself and you'd. But when the relationship begins to fall apart, or when it begins to experience a natural death, you stop
Yeah.
calling, you stop texting. But there's always one person who is still holding on to the relationship and hoping the relationship will work out. So this person is the one who is always reaching out. And the more they reach out, the more they don't get a response. The more they don't feel connected to this particular person, the more they chase. It's like they're trying to show you, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Sometimes, even this person, if they can step back, they would realize they don't even want you that much. They would even realize that even the relationship wasn't satisfying them and they weren't happy. But
Yeah.
by virtue of the fact that you're not responding, it puts them in a position where they feel the need to keep fighting. And that is why you see excess become toxic. That's why you see excess become a bother. That's why you see people, you ask them to sweep the ocean or to go back to their exes. Then you see them coming out with brooms to sweep the ocean because you don't want to imagine a scenario where you and this particular person are having a conversation. Why? Because one person is chasing to feel validated. In a relationship, there is nothing that is more important than validation. And that is why you see men are not able to forgive women who become unfaithful. Because he sits back and he wonders, sasa huyu anajaribu it feels like a personal attack. So in this kind of a state, it is good that we understand that this person is not capable of reasoning
Yeah.
unless it is brought to their attention that, hey, what you're doing is wrong. But then again, with this particular family that we are studying today, we see that there's a consistency of behavior. There's a pattern of behavior. The children are used to it. The parents are used to it. At no point do they stop and say, hey, we will not be having this kind of fights in front of children. And that's the difference between maturity and immaturity in relationships. There are people who are in relationships for 1 year and they are so mature. And there are people, Ellie, who have been in relationships for 20 years, 25 years, and they're so immature. Because for this couple, when you look at them and you look at the age of their children, this is a couple that does not have less than 10 years in that marriage.
Yeah.
But they're so immature in how they carry themselves, or in how they address the children, or in how they speak about. But there's a maturity that you see in this woman. When she's telling the child to go and wear the sweater, she comes down and her tone changes completely. I don't know whether you noticed that. And she
Mm-hmm.
tells him, enda uchukue sweta ya shule uvae. And her voice is calm, she's composed, she's in control, and then she goes back to ranting, and then she goes back to going off on her husband. So you can see where there's need for maturity, she steps up and she becomes mature. There's a particular point in this video, Ellie, where we see
Yeah.
the daughter reporting her. to the father and saying, Ati daddy, the jeans that you bought me, mommy sold them, or she took them, or I can't see them. And the way the daughter is reporting is in a very negative note. But you see, the mother is not bothered. She does not go off on the child. You would expect her to behave the same way she's behaving with the husband, right? She doesn't
Yeah.
go off because she's not threatened. Her love for this child is not threatened, and the love for the child towards her is not threatened. So she's not feeling invalidated. The fact that she's the mother of these children hasn't been taken away from her. And you can hear her saying it when she says, Mimi nimekupatia watoto wanne. How many children has this woman given you? So when it comes to that point where you're feeling undervalued, unappreciated, unrecognized, unloved, these things trigger feelings within yourself that if you're not emotionally, it's called emotional intelligence. If you lack emotional intelligence, you will not handle it with soberness. You will not handle it with dignity. You will not even handle it with manners. You will be so grossly conducted that if you look back, you'll be thinking, Jesus Christ. I'm sure when this man looked at that clip on Facebook before he had posted, because when he posted it, he was angry and he was trying to expose her and to get back at her and to show everybody what kind of a woman she is. I'm sure later on, when he sat by himself and looked at that clip, he regretted that decision. But because his emotions were affected, because he was feeling frustrated, he needed to reach this woman, he needed to hit where it hurts the most. He went ahead and took the actions that he took. So we don't expect logic from this kind of people, Ellie. If we expect logic, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. I'm telling you. So I can see Nancy, you have highlighted her comment, and she says, always keep respect for each other, sit down and communicate in a calm way. Yes, for a mature couple.
We want to talk about that and even more in Yokabi when we come back. But for the moment, we're going to take a break. Remember, the show airing to you live is Family Edition. And tonight we are discussing, rather, this is like a case study to us. And for those who are joining, we are discussing toxicity at a different level, whereby now children and the couples get involved and everything is going gun blazing. For those of you who missed out in the first introduction, be sure to rewatch this cast after the live show. We take a break. We're coming back and let's now address the elephant in the room. Is it time to say goodbye? And when is it time to say goodbye? We'll be right back after this short break. Yes, welcome back. This is Liviani Eli, and of course, hanging out with Nokabi GK Kamal, relationship coach. Tonight on the family edition, we are discussing if it is time to say goodbye. Before we took the break, we had quite a heated one in the comment section. Remember to continue sending in your comments with the hashtag @InHeart, responding to live. Back to you, Nyokabi. Nyokabi, let's start responding to the issues.
Is it time to say goodbye? Is it time really to say goodbye? As a relationship coach, I'm very conservative about that particular comment because there are people who will actually take me seriously and go ahead and take actions towards what I say. So I'm very conservative about those kind of words and those kind of confirmations. I seriously cannot stand here and a family say it's time to say goodbye. But I will create scenarios for us where it demands that either you get help or you actually do walk out of the relationship. Now, we've talked about, in our last family edition, we talked about toxic parenting, we talked about types of toxicity that you can go through in a relationship. And I want to just highlight some of the things we talked about on Saturday. One of the things we mentioned are the type of abuses. Now, and we described how those types of abuses can affect you as a person, can affect your children, can even affect you as you grow up into adulthood. And as I talk about this, I want to highlight what Mercy has said here. We should take this topic seriously. Toxic parenting makes children anxious. Like for my case, when you talk about anxiety, these are people who have panic attacks. These are people who sweat furiously when they are faced with a situation where there is aggression. These are people who experience a lot of anxiety with everything, including employment and work, and then they're unable to perform under pressure. So others get into drugs. These are some of the side effects of being in a toxic relationship. You find an unhealthy way of coping with the situation that you're in, and others suffer mental conditions and mental illnesses such as depression. Anxiety is also a mental illness. They suffer from panic attacks. So these are some of the conditions that you suffer from when you find yourself in a toxic relationship. Thank you so much for highlighting that for us and even sharing your personal experience and your brother's experience. So allow me to just run through some of the reasons that you should say it's time to walk out of a relationship. It's time to get help. It's time for a separation. It's time to rethink the situation that you're in. Number one, the types of abuses. And there are different types of abuses. There's the physical abuse, which we are all conversant with. The physical abuse is where somebody is using things to hit you and to beat you and to cause you injury, physical harm that you can see with your eyes like this. That is physical abuse. If you're in a relationship and somebody just hits you, punches you and slaps you and break your bones and wounds you in very serious places, this is a person who can easily kill you. They will hit you one day the wrong place and you will just die. There's a particular clip we had seen on Facebook of this man who was beating his wife, and anamchapa na pasi, anamgonga kichwa na pasi, because this is the type of physical abuse you're talking. And we have seen a lot of physical abuse lately. Actually, during the corona period, I think physical abuse has just been highlighted on another level. We have this lady, my namesake, who was killed and left by the roadside in Juja. That is somebody who was going through physical abuse. Somebody is punching you and is beating you. There's a level that it gets. Actually, from the first slap, get help. He's not going to stop just because you have had children. He's not going to stop because you've been married for 20 years. If he's abusing you, he will keep abusing you until you get help, or she will keep abusing you until you get help. The other one is emotional abuse. We have witnessed emotional abuse at the beginning of this show. Emotional abuse are words. They are words. The tongue, mostly it's the mouth that is used. And then the other tactic for emotional abuse is with withdrawal of things. Somebody who was providing for you and they stop providing for you, that's emotional abuse. And it can also be called financial abuse. But emotional abuse mostly are words that are used to attack you as a person. This gentleman tells this lady, "Hakuna kubwa kama yako." That is emotional abuse. This person has said something to you, you will always be thinking about it. It will always be at the back of your mind. This person said ni kubwa, and it could not be true. But by the fact that somebody said it, it affects you in a way. It makes you feel some type of way. It takes away your self-esteem. It makes you feel like less of a human being. These are some of the things we're talking about, emotional abuse. The other type of emotional abuse is financial. The person tells you, unless you do this for me, then I will not do what you want. Yes, I'll not provide food. There'll be no electricity. The house will be locked. The children will not go to school. So you're always trading for basic things. You're always exchanging services for basic things. That is financial abuse. The other one is sexual abuse, and this is the most sensitive one. I've seen people saying that there is no such thing as rape in marriages. If sex is not consensual, then it is rape. And consent comes from both sides. You don't have to say at your you don't have to negotiate. If you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. And I'm not advocating for women to use this to their advantage. No. What I'm saying is that somebody should not penetrate you by force if you have not consented. So these are some of the abuses that are causing a lot of toxicity in relationships. So if you're going through any of these kinds of abuse, help is available for you. And you'll be so surprised that even in Kenya, help is available for you. And you can actually speak to somebody and somebody can work with you and can help you. When it comes to emotional abuses, when you look at those abuses, Now, when it comes to the decision of walking out, look at how it's affecting you as a person to start with, and then look at how it is affecting your partner who you're in a relationship with, and then now look at how it's affecting your children. Because you might think that because you're the one who is being beaten and he's good to your children, then the abuse is not affecting the children. It is, because it's not normal to grow up seeing your mother being slapped around. There's nothing normal about it. What you're teaching this child is how to be in a toxic relationship. It's not normal for your children to hear that your husband is being intimate with you and you're crying the whole night. Or when you wake up in the morning, you're crying the whole day, the next day, because penetration happened to you and you had not consented to it. When it comes to emotional abuse, like this woman has gone through a lot of emotional abuse, you can see it as she's trying to fight to remain afloat. So these are some of the things that you see. Even these children now begin to respond to their mother with no respect, because at what point does a daughter begin to accuse the mother of stealing jeans and hiding them and those kind of things? They are also not respecting you because they have not been taught how to respect you. So when you look at how this is trickling down to your children, then from there you can be able to get help. And it's never too late to get help. It's never too late to get help. It doesn't matter how far the damage has been done, it's never too late to get help. And this is a psychological thing. You need help. Somebody needs to help you realize what is happening to you is not normal, is not acceptable, and you can come out of it and you can still keep your marriage and not be abused in that marriage. It is possible. So when we ask the question, Ellie, is it time to leave? What are we saying?
Nyokabe, I will answer your
Yes.
question with a scenario. Unknown to many, sometimes we are like an occurrence book. I do accept that I receive a lot of, I say, communications from viewers, communications from people that get to see what we're doing. And some of them are so frustrating. Somebody tells you, Ellie, I have been in this relationship, and every single night I go to bed, I cannot close my eyes because I'm afraid my husband will, you know, rain on me,
Kill.
like physically.
Mm.
Someone tells you, yeah, Ellie, I do not understand what is wrong with my relationship because sometimes I fear that actually my wife will poison me. So I think this kind of situations, can be as much as you will advocate for happily thereafter. This is my point of departure, Nyokabi. I will say it is a no. And it doesn't, I was telling one of these people that actually approached me, and I told them, you do not need to end in a coffin to be sure that that relationship is not working.
Mm.
As much as, most of the time, people stay in a relationship to make the rest that are watching from outside happy. Oh, she made it. She had a successful relationship. We have instances that actually some of these people go to their own parents and their parents tell them that I already did my thing. It's you to fix your family and go back to your family. And in the meantime, you're being abused. One of the best scenarios, I think, has been explained in a very good way. It's this song by Sanavi Pate, and anybody that can get that song, I would love to remember the title. It really tells a story of a woman that has been, raised and told, go and have your family. But every single day they're having all those abuses you've mentioned. And when they go back home, all they are told is go back to your husband because between us it's finished. Go fix your family issues and stay at your home because that's where you belong. So it is something that we need to critique, and it's something that we need to look at. And when I talk about the point of departure in Yokabi, that is my point of departure. There are some things we can talk, we can come to you and discuss, probably, other matters that are supposed to be attended to, they're not being attended to, and you need them, arranged in one way or the other. But once it get to that point that you feel always you have, panic attacks, you can barely have sleep because you don't know what is going to happen during the night, to the extent that, and the problem is it goes to a level that in Yokabi, these people, and I think that where the knack kind of mentality steps into place now, which is narcissism. They
Yes.
step
Yes.
in and they make you feel like you are always the one that is in the wrong. For me, I believe that is the point that you say it's enough. Another point that Nyokabi concerns me, it's when you mention children. And good enough, you've mentioned and said sometimes you might think they are abusive to you and not the children, and therefore it is okay. You can persevere. I do not believe, and I will not subscribe the school of thought that you have to stay in a relationship because you have children. For me, that is when you say goodbye.
Mm.
As long as the relationship is not healthy to the level that everybody feel included in this circuit. And I'm not just saying people not trying out to see that things work. There's some places we can discuss in your cabin. We can come to you because you're a great relationship coach and you can help us figure out stuff. But when it comes to that level that inakuwa ni kana kwamba you are the problem and they are always right and they are actually filming you, that was an abusive in itself. Because
Yes.
what is the intention when they are filming that conversation? To show to the
Yes.
other party that this person is useless. Because as much as people are saying that man lost authority in that house, he equally lost respect for that relationship.
Yes.
Have you heard of stories that people say, Nyokabi, and being
Yes.
that we are talking to family, you hear people say, yeah, it's okay, let them do it as long as I do not know anything about it. I don't want to cross the boundaries because we are in the family edition, but that's where the whole mess starts. And thank you so much, Stella Kims, who says the song is Kunitema. I will try look for that song and so that all of us can have the conversation. So, Nyokabi, how do we resolve
Yes.
this? How do we resolve? We talked about the point of departure. How do we resolve them?
Like I said, Ellie, you get the right to say it's time to depart. It's time to go
Mhm.
separate ways. And I like that we are working together like that because you can say some things that I cannot say because I have to be politically correct. Or less my title becomes null and void. So for the purposes of being politically correct, I do not stand for abuse as an individual. Speaking as Nyokabi, I do not stand for any kind of abuse. And I believe if you get into a relationship, can I just let me speak to the ladies for a minute? If
As
you
you speak to
make it clear,
them, I need you to take some
yes,
time and you will answer a very long text from Cindy Shengo. So take your
yes.
time because you will need a lot of water and your glasses on. So go ahead as I fix some things
So
behind the stage.
yes, to say for me as Nyokabi, I would say that I would not, I would not advocate for any kind of abuse. And when I speak to ladies during premarital counseling, one of my sessions is the do's and the don'ts. The deal breakers are which in the relationship. What is a deal breaker for you? It doesn't matter we've been married for 10 years or 40 years. What is a deal breaker for you? So whenever I do my premarital counseling, I make sure that each couple does for me a well written write out of what are their deal breakers. And one of the major deal breakers that I highlight personally is the issue of abuse. And the reason for me the issue of abuse is quite sensitive is because I am a product of an abusive parent. I grew up in a very abusive environment. I was physically abused, I was emotionally abused, I was verbally abused. And when I say I was, I'm not talking about 50 years ago. I'm talking about up to the point, I think, especially the verbal abuse just stopped, I think, 5 years or 3 years ago. Even when I was married, in my first years of marriage, I was still going through the verbal abuse and the physical abuse from my parents. So when I speak about these abuses, it's things that I have gone through for me. So one of the major things that I used to have a conversation with, and I always encourage women to, if you're going to date somebody and they show you aggression, whether they're angry or they're upset, or by simple things, the red flag that we have been talking about, to look out for the red flags. And I think we'll do a Wednesday show where we'll talk about the red flags. Which are the red flags in the relationship that you should not ignore, that you should have conversations about upfront and right there. Let the person know that I will not stand for any kind of abuse. And I remember during the time of my rorashio and during the traditional obligations, I so regretted that I never told these people when they asked me, will we ever spit the soda we have drunk? I should have stood up and tell them, yes, you will spit it if he hits me. If he slaps me, I'm walking out. If he even insinuates or suggests that he's going to hit me, I'm stepping out. So these are some of the things that as a lady, you need to have your deal breakers. You need to be in tune with your deal breakers. You need to be okay with your deal breakers. And this applies to men as well. And your partner needs to know where you stand as an individual. Have an honest, authentic, open conversation about these things. Do not fear to address them. When you go for your premarital counseling, when you go for your coaching sessions, ladies, bring this thing up. Gentlemen, bring this thing up. Let sex be a deal breaker for you. Communicate. How is it that you can have a healthy relationship with this person? Because you don't want to get into a marriage to be frustrated. You don't want to get into a marriage to be depressed. You don't want to get into a marriage to be disrespected, to be going through infidelity, to be going through all kinds of abuse. Because even infidelity is a type of a sexual abuse. People don't look at it as an abuse, but it is an abuse. It becomes abuse because it distorts the normal life and it affects the emotions and the mental state of your partner. So it is a form of abuse. So discuss these deal breakers openly before. The first time he hits you, do not be complacent. Do not be complacent. Address it. The first time she takes something and throws at you, respond immediately and take action. Do not ignore and say, oh, do not excuse bad behavior. I always tell people, do not excuse bad behavior with alcohol. Do not say, "Ati alcohol made me call you names. Ati alcohol made me stab you with a knife. Alcohol made me go to the kitchen and pick a knife." Alcohol did not make you do anything, any of those things. Do not excuse bad behavior. Bad behavior is bad behavior. Address it as that. If it is irreconcilable differences, go your separate ways before you start involving innocent children, before you lose your mind, before you lose your stability, before you lose who you are in the process of trying to hold on to something that's not even maji yakimwagika hayazoleki. Let me tell you, Eli, and it's quite tricky. I'm looking for that particular long comment so that I can highlight it. I don't know whether you can find it. You highlight it for me, Eli. Can you find it so that we can?
Unfortunately, I had to deal away with it because it's what we call spammers. So excuse
Oh,
me for that. Yes, that happens in such kind of live shows. But then again, we have comments from the comment section. Stella says, "Thank you so much for bringing up this topic in your Kabi." And
awesome.
we have, I mean, I'm going to just mention some of the people that joined us in the cast tonight: Stella, Kim, Shabani, Hamisi, Nancy Magan, Johnny Lefty, Lena Mwareri, very, very converse. I mean, she created a very good conversation tonight. Thank you so much, Lena, for joining us. Masi Bayenia, uh, I hope I'm pronouncing the names correctly. You know, somebody told me, Ellie, you forgot your glasses. Yes, I don't know where they are. And then Max Med, Dick, I'm telling you names that we have on Facebook. Roman Mutinda, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Jakita, thank you so much. Fifi Pats, Kiproroda, Saran Jonjo, quite some long time. Where have you been hiding? And she says we should be very careful with the choice of words we use with kids around us. And I think that is
Yes.
always the biggest problem, Yokabi, because sometimes as adults, we tend to forget our environment. And well, it goes without saying, those words have great impact on our children. Let's proceed a bit further. Who do we have? Majid Solomon. Thank you so much for joining. And he says, good and nice discussion happening here. Um, who else is here? Let's see. Salamat Payu. Thank you so much for joining. You came and disappeared just like the lightning. Jimmy James, thank you so much for making time. And CD Hawat, thank you so much for your time tonight. Samantha Linsama, equally, I appreciate you. Lucille Wairimu, great topic, she says. Nyokabi, you have quite good comments tonight. Obira Owaji Ambiza and John Shady Kinywa, Thank you for making time to come here tonight and having this discussion. So let's conclude this topic tonight with everybody that joined us in the cast. We want to appreciate your contribution. But even as we discuss this, Nyokabi, let's take time to listen to this song and then we come back to, wrap it up. The song is by Sarampai Tande. Nyokabi, I think that concludes our view on this topic. And for all of you that are watching, you can always head to YouTube, find the song Kunitema by Sanapei Tande. And Nyokabi, do you want to say something
Yes.
about that song before we call it a wrap?
That song. Ellie,
Because
the
you
first
cannot
time
say
I
it as
saw
a
that
relationship coach.
The first time I saw that song, Ellie, I just broke down because I saw so many women who have gone through what Sanaipe is actually talking about. And I'm glad the message is getting out there, that people are being let know that it's okay, that marriage is not the beginning and the end of everything, that being married does not define who you are. Being not married does not take away from who you are as a person. So you really you don't have to break your spirit. Your back does not have to be broken. Your body does not have to be found somewhere for you to remain somebody, somebody, somebody. You actually are valued as a person by yourself, and it's very important to have peace. Early in my life, there's nothing I value like peace. Aki, you take away peace from me, I'm done with you. It doesn't matter at what level, whether you're the kind of person who calls 10 missed calls or 5 missed calls, or you're the kind of person who will make sneer comments like no kona tumbo squeezy or umenona, to the simplest comments such as calling me nyoks when I have told you not to call me nyoks, as in anything that just takes away peace from me. For me, I choose to walk because my sanity and life is so short. And I need to be sane. I need to be sane for my children. I need to be sane for my family. I need to be sane for myself. So if you're taking away that sanity from me, I feel that relationship is not necessary. It's not really necessary. And it doesn't matter who you are. And like I said before, I come from a toxic background. So when I talk about these things, I'm speaking from experience. It's never that serious, Ellie. These ladies, these gentlemen need to know it's never that serious. And we keep talking about abuse in marriages like it's only men who do abuses to women. But in that particular clip, we can actually see the woman being very emotionally abusive to the gentleman. Both of them played their own part and both of them participated because it takes two to tango. But we can see this woman becoming extremely abusive. No man can live like that. The Bible says that it's like a leaking roof. A nagging woman is like a leaking roof. Ellie, you're trying to sleep and the water just keeps dropping. Tip, 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 tip. That is what a nagging woman is like. So yes, even men do go through abuse, but more women are more prone to experience these types of abuse than men are. But you're not ignoring men who go through abuse. So please seek help. The message today, Ellie, is seek help. It's a psychological thing. You can not easily get out on your own. Please seek help where you are. Seek help. Go to people who you can trust. Don't go to family. Don't go to relatives. Don't go to aunties. Don't go to uncles. Seek help from professionals who understand the dynamics of the situations that you're in. Please speak to a professional about your situation. Family is not built, is not customed, is not aware of how they're supposed to handle that situation. Please speak to professionals who can be able to pull you out of that situation. And please, if you do anything, seek help. Seek help, seek help, seek help. And the help is out there, it's available for you, and somebody will come through. Don't say at you, oh, I don't have the finances. Most of us who are in this business, we are in this business because it's a calling. We are in this business because it is out of our own life experiences that have driven us to these places. So some of us will actually hear you out and they will help you out. So don't sit back and say, oh, I can't afford for consultation of this amount. Seek help, seek help, seek help. The help is available for you. You have no excuse. Ellie, let's close this thing. It
Thank
was
you
such
so
an
much,
emotional show.
Nyokabi, GJ
We have
Kamau.
never had such an emotional show like this.
Yeah, we haven't, but some things have to be done. And for everybody that made this conversation worth having it, the likes of Kipro Road, and she says, thank you so much, Ms. Kamau. We should never try to make people feel insecure about their looks. Unaambia mtu unakaa tumbo kubwa ni kama umezaa watoto 10. Amekuzalia wewe, Just
Mm.
remember that. So let's say it has been a pleasure having you tonight on this cast. Remember, you can always reach out to people that can help you. That is Nyokabi GK Kamau +254780810 Again, Nyokabi GK Kamau +254780810 Always available on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. The name is Nyokabi GK Kamau, and on Instagram, Nyokabi GK. So let's do this again next week, as always on the Family Edition. And tomorrow, I have an interesting guest coming on tonight, or rather tomorrow night. Her name is Thitu Kariba Garang, author and, of course, healing ambassador. We will talk about rape, we will talk about abuse, and we will talk about drugs and drugs abuse. So be there because this is a story you want to listen to. GK,
Yes,
it's been a pleasure having you. I
of
wish you a
course.
great evening and happy Sunday in front coming over. And remember the hashtag as always is always responding to life, art in heart. And my name is Likuyani Eli. Till next time, see you and God bless you.